so fresh, looking so fresh. When I walk by, breaking their necks. Waiting in line at the team store. Now I'm feeling fly like a condor. Eyes on me when I walk through the door. Man, I wish I bought a couple more. Cause I really love my city. It was worth every penny. If it were at my show, then I know they gon' tip me. Think I might add a couple patches. If you think it's ugly, you capping. Now my whole outfit matching. Never going out of fashion.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome, episode 656, Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden with you here, October 30th, 2024. Hopefully, everybody is doing well. Obviously, we know that the World Series is going into a Game 5 later tonight. Garrett Cole, and then I think Walker Buehler, or no, Flaherty and Cole. So that should be an interesting matchup. Obviously, we wish that it was the Padres that was playing the Yankees in this World Series, but we continue along with the season reviews and hope that the Yankees can extend the series even longer tonight with a win. Finishing out these season reviews with the outfield, I already did the rotation, the bullpen, catchers. I did infielders the other day, and we'll finish out with the outfield and then wait till this World Series is over. And I think 5 days after that is that's when like really things can start getting going in the off season. So let's start off with Jurickson Profar here. You know, the best 1-year contract in baseball this year. Now, I guess the only argument would be like someone like Teoscar Hernandez with the Dodgers if the Dodgers end up winning the World Series, because I know he was 20 plus times the amount of Profar, the base salary. But Profar didn't win the World Series. Teoscar, if the Dodgers win, helped them win the World Series. So I understand it that way, but in terms of like actual value and how much the guy was paid and how much he produced, like pleasant surprise, like it's Jurickson Profar for me on a 1-year, $1 million deal. I think he ended up getting over $2 million when you add in the incentives. But yeah, just way more positives for me than negatives on this year. I don't think anyone was expecting him to have a 4.3 F4. He played in almost every game, 158 games, 280 average, 380 on base, 459 slug. His weighted runs created plus was 39% above league average, almost 100 runs scored, 85 runs driven in, hit 24 home runs. And go look at his Baseball Savant page, a lot of red. There are some of these that I don't know what the heck that is, but hey, a lot of red means he was doing really good. I do know stuff. Chase rate, whiff rate, say that 5 times. K rate, walk rate, all of that were in the 88th percentile or higher. So really good there from Jurickson. Batting run value, I couldn't totally tell you exactly what that is, but that's 94th percentile. So good job from Jurickson there. Man, someone that fits the Padres, right? Jackson Merrill, yeah. Jurickson Profar is another one of those guys. Comes in, he expected to not be starting in left field and playing for 158 games this year. He comes in he knew it was a non-starter contract. But the Padres end up not signing someone like Tommy Pham or bringing in someone else, making a trade. And they have Merrill go play center, Tatis obviously in right. And they say, Jurickson, you're the left fielder. Played there obviously in 2022. I thought he had a solid year there. And it took it to a whole nother level, multiple levels, I guess, over 2022's production a couple years later in 2024. And considering it's not just the 1 year, $1 million, but the Rockies didn't want him at the end of 2023. They said, nah, we're good. And he comes in and he's the all-star starting left fielder in the all-star game. He's called irrelevant by Will Smith. And then the next night, Sunday Night Baseball, a couple nights later maybe, hits the ball off the wall, clears the bases, and Padres win. They'll walk off against the Nats when some may be like, no, that's the smart move. You walk Luis Ariz to get to Profar because Ariz is the contact guy. But Major League players They're going to take everything personally as that chip on their shoulder. And I totally understand that. I get it. I love it. The competition. And he has the walk-off against the Nats. The game-tying homer before Manny's walk-off homer earlier in the regular season. So many cool moments. Obviously, we wish that Jurickson Profar home run robbery would have been like the play of the postseason, remembered as the play of the postseason. And I think there would have been a much better chance of us remembering, or not us, but like baseball, the national baseball world, remembering the Profar robbery as the play of the postseason if the Padres would have beat the Dodgers, if they would have, won the World Series, let's say, or at least gotten to the World Series. Those things get remembered more, right? It's almost like, we're going to remember the Freddie Freeman grand slam against the Yankees in game 1 here, but if the Dodgers somehow choke a 3-0 lead, that is not going to be remembered as fondly, right? We're going to, everything that happened positively for the Dodgers in this series, which obviously I'm hoping this is what we're doing here. Everything that happened positively, we're going to be like, well, but they choked a 3-0 lead in the World Series. They were the first team ever to choke a 3-0 lead. I mean, it took, 40 plus years for a team to lose game 4 when they were up 3-0 like the Dodgers lost last night. So hopefully, the impossible, what it feels like, especially after Yankees went down 3-0, hopefully the impossible ends up becoming possible. But yeah, that Profar catch, it was amazing. The reaction with the fans. Now, what happened later in the game obviously was embarrassing for Dodger fans. Not surprised, but it sucks that I'm not surprised by that. But that's who some of them are. And the negatives, if we want to get to the negatives for Profar, the second half numbers did drop significantly. I was talking about Manny the other day, where it was like a tale of two halves, where first half, recovering from the elbow, not playing third base every day, just had to find it. Second half, way better. With Profar, he hit 305 in the first half. His OPS was 870. In the second half, though, I'm not saying this OPS is terrible, especially for a guy that's getting paid $1 million, but 794 OPS. Like, that's a significant drop. He had, let's see, a 243 average compared to 305, 360 on base compared to 394. Like, yeah, that's a drop there. And I'm sure Profar was disappointed and, pissed off by that. I think we also got to mention, though, I don't think I should just, talk about negatives and then not bring it up, because I brought it up about Luis Ariz with what he had to deal with Manny, what he had to deal with Profar. He was, this wasn't talked about a bunch, near the end of the season, I don't think, but he was dealing with that left knee, what was it, tendonitis? I think of it as just left knee issues. He was dealing with that pretty much throughout the season, right? And sometimes it would be really bad, and then some days it wouldn't be that big of a deal. So who knows how big of a deal it was, in October, at the end of September there. If he did talk about it, I don't really remember what he said about that. But yeah, he didn't score or drive in anyone in the final 4 games of that NLDS out of the 3 spot. There was, I'm not comparing this to Aaron Judge, because Aaron Judge, obviously one of the best players in the league. But Yankees fans, some of them are like, what are we doing here? We got to take Aaron Judge out of this 3 spot. He's not producing. Who cares what message this sends? It's the World Series. We got to put, I think some were advocating to put Stanton in that 3 spot and put Judge in maybe the 5th spot. Slide him down. You want Stanton up in that first inning the way that Stanton was swinging the bat. There is swinging the bat in October. He's so fun to watch in October. And with Profar, I did see some fans that were like, why is Profar continuing to hit in the 3 spot? But I think a lot of managers in baseball, to be honest, they're not going to slide a guy like that, especially the 3 hitter. They're not going to slide him down. If they're going to do anything, maybe they move him up, and that might sound stupid, but maybe you move him up to lead off to maybe put less pressure, and maybe that changes his approach going into at-bats. Like, all right, just get on base. Don't try to do too much. But I personally never saw that, like, okay, yeah, Profar is going to be moved from his spot that he's been hitting for a while now. by Mike Schilt. That's just Schilt was something. I think he said this during the postseason. He was like, "No, what got us here is going to get us through, or it's not." He didn't say that direct. I'm not quoting him, but essentially that's what he was saying. And so, yeah, I wasn't surprised by that decision. Some would probably say put Merrill in the 3 spot. You'd have Arise, Tatis, Merrill, but then you'd have Manny 4. Would you go Profar 5 and you move it that way? I think they liked what Merrill brought where he hit in the order. So to me, I'm not like going to be complaining about lineups about why the Padres lost. To me, it's just the offense collectively, it pretty much shut down. And we can give credit to the Dodgers. They had some nasty relievers that they were throwing, and Yamamoto was pretty darn good. But at the same time, this is the same Padres team earlier in the series that was scoring 5 runs and 6 runs and 10 runs, right? One of the games was 10 runs, game 2, I think, or at least 8. And that's the same series. And later in the series, just wasn't able to do it. So I'm not going to sit here and make a bunch of excuses here. But yeah, overall for Profar, man, career year. I mean, the best average that he's had, the best on base percentage that he's had. I'm looking at his baseball reference right now. The best slugging percentage since, well, that doesn't really count. 2012 when he played 9 games. The best OPS by far, the best OPS that he's had. The only OPS season that he's had with an OPS at least at 800. It was 839. OPS plus of 134. His highest before that this year was, 114, I think, in 2020, which was a shortened season, 56 games with the Padres. He fits here. So if we want to talk about his future, and we'll talk about that more, obviously, in the offseason here, his future should be here with the Padres. He fits this team. The question, obviously, is how much are the Padres willing to go with Profar? Is it 2 years with an option? Is it 3 years with an option? Is it options every year, like I think the Wandy Peralta contract is? What is it with Profar? Because Profar is going to want guaranteed, right? I think Boris is still his agent. What he goes from 1 million to what? You can't just double the salary because of what it was 1 mil. Like, you're not going to pay him 2 mil. The salary may have to go up 10 times what it was. So would 10 mil a year be, 3 for 30? Is that reasonable for both sides? And Profar, you can put incentives in there if you want. And like, that's the fit. And Profar's just, wants to go finish the unfinished business. I also wonder, how seriously is he going to listen to other teams' offers? But I think, and obviously I'm not Scott Boras, but what Profar should be considering here is, are other teams going to give him the same opportunity that the Padres do? Are other teams going to give him starting left field and put him at the top of the order and believe in him as much as the Padres do? Is the fan base going to love Profar as much as Padres fans do? Is he going to be as comfortable in a new spot as he is here with the Padres? The Padres are home. I believe he has said that multiple times, where it feels like, yes, this is home. This is where I belong, essentially. So he's got to weigh that. The Padres have to weigh, how much do we need Jurickson Profar on this team? There's other free agent options out there. I know Teoscar Hernandez is going to get brought up. He's a free agent when this World Series is over. How realistic is that? Because his salary is probably going to be double what Profar's is, maybe close to that, because what he, the power that he brings, it's probably going to be 3-4 years, I would think, for Teoscar Hernandez, not just 1 year, coming off the year that he had this year. There's guys like Jesse Winker, which I wouldn't even want on the team. Tommy Pham, who obviously was discussed. But, I mean, you want Profar back. There may be some devil's advocates in the comments that may not want Profar back, but because they're going to be like, well, he's only getting older, and it was 1 year. This is this actually Profar? This is the first year that he's done this? Well, it was the most recent year. He just did it. Every player is getting older, so that should be a hindrance to every player that you talk about, And the other options, are they going to fit as well as we know? We know that Profar fits this team. So we'll see. But that's what I got on Jurickson Profar. Moving over to Jackson Merrill, the guy who should be the rookie of the year. And is the real rookie of the year the Players' Choice Rookie of the Year or Most Outstanding Rookie or the BBWAA Rookie of the Year? Because that is by writers. And I know that writers follow the team. Do they follow? And they can look at numbers, obviously. Do they follow? Does the Pittsburgh writer follow Jackson Merrill as much as they did Paul Skeens? Does the New York Mets writer follow Jackson Merrill's season as much as he followed Paul Skeens? That's obviously something that we're going to talk about during awards week when this World Series ends. I believe it's MLB Network that does that awards week, and then the Rookie of the Year is in there. If I was a player, I probably would be more honored, not from what writers think about me, but what the players in the league think about me. And the players in the league have already said that the Rookie of the Year is Jackson Merrill. They voted him the most outstanding player, the Players' Choice Award, which Merrill received at Dodger Stadium, I think, before Game 2. That has already been decided. So congratulations to Jackson on that. And this is pretty much the best that the Padres could have hoped for, maybe better than what they could have hoped for from Jackson Merrill. Because there was a lot of questions, obviously, going into the year with Jackson Merrill, center field, rookie. Is he ready? Well, he was more than ready. He was one of the best players on the team. He was one of the better outfielders in the league. He was an all-star in his rookie season. He had a 5.3 FWAR. Almost played every game this year, 156 games, almost hit 300. On base percentage over 300, slugging at 500. Weighted runs created plus of 130. 90 runs driven in, 24 bombs. A lot of red on that baseball savant. And it's his rookie year. It's probably only going to get better from here. Maybe not all the numbers because it's hard to play baseball. But I'm saying if he can get more mature, and maybe the maturity comes from and I'm not obviously in there, but what to do pregame. Learning this year as a rookie of what does Manny do pregame? What does Bogey do pregame? What do these guys do to get themselves ready? What do they do postgame to put themselves in a better spot before they go to bed and get themselves ready for the next day to go to the ballpark, right? What are they doing on road trips? What do they do in the off season? So maybe that's where, because for me as a teammate, at speaking to the media, I feel like he's already mature as a rookie. So I'm totally good with where he's at there. Right? What point to one bad thing that he said to the media? Like, did he step in something? I mean, when? I don't remember that. From spring training, when he was talking about how he wishes the Padres would have won a spring training game against the Cubs when he had a really big day in Mesa. You know, he doesn't care. I think early in the season against the Giants, he had a really good day. Who cares? We didn't win the game, is essentially his mindset. So absolutely love that. And what made it so impressive was his clutchness, if that's a word. And I could talk about how his WRC plus better than Trey Turner, Matt Olson, Ellie De La Cruz, slugging percentage higher than guys like Mookie Betts and Kyle Schwarber and Freddie Freeman, who's going to win the World Series MVP probably. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully some Yankee does, but probably going to be Freddie. Matt Chapman, Jose Altuve, Pete Alonso. But the way that he was able to have a 982 OPS in late and close situations, 926 OPS in high leverage situations, have 9 homers and 37 ribbies in those situations. Walk-off homers off of Mason Miller and Edwin Diaz. That stretch that he had, that 10-game stretch against the Dodgers, against Blake Trinan in the 9th inning, game-tying homer before the Padres ended up walking it off there. Against the Pirates on the road, 9th inning game-tying homer. Had a game-winning sac fly in the 10th. Same road trip against the Marlins, 9th inning game-tying homer. The next day, 8th inning game-tying homer. As a rookie. All of that, loving the big situations. Not being shy about it, but wanting those situations. Being ready for those situations. It was awesome stuff. So, I don't like bringing up any negatives from this year for Jackson Merrill because It was better than I thought it was going to be. It was better than a lot of people thought it was going to be. I was not questioning Merrill in center field as much as other people were in this town. I do know that because I do remember that. But I'm not sitting here saying like that he was going to go win Rookie of the Year. I was not expecting that or thinking that that was going to happen. And part of that was because we didn't know the full plan. Was he going to be up the entire season? Was he going to be starting the entire season? Was AJ going to acquire someone that would play center? And then, Merrill would be more of a utility guy at some point. But no, he's starting in center field. He is the center fielder. We know that. I would not put him back in shortstop. I wouldn't put Tatis at shortstop. I would put Bogarts there, or I would bring in someone else and put them at shortstop. Or yeah, that's what I would do. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Merrill is not broke. Tatis is not broke. I'm leaving the outfield as is, and I'm trying to bring back Profar as well. In the postseason, Wild Card Series Game 2, he had that 2 RBI triple off the center field wall. He homered in Game 2 of the division series, remember, in that rout against the Dodgers. The extension thing, Michael King, I think, should, and this is not anything against Jackson. I love Jackson. He has quickly become one of my favorite Padres. It's Musgrove, it's Merrill, and it's Crony. But this is just timing. Michael King, I think, should be, and Merrill, I think Merrill would probably say the same thing. I'm here. I'm locked up already with this contract, this rookie contract. Michael King is a free agent after next year. He should be the priority. He should be the one that we need to lock up, AJ and Eric Katsenda and Eric Krupner, whoever is involved in that process. He should be the one. He's the priority here. This rotation, if we don't have Michael King in this rotation in 2026, what is that going to look like? You're going to have me here in center field. You're going to have me. So if they get an extension done, I'm not going to sit here and be mad about it, obviously. I'd love to have Merrill locked up, even though he's locked up already for 5 more years. But Michael King, I think, should be the priority. Negatives, Merrill, we know he's about accountability, and I feel like he's a young Xander Bogaerts. Bogey, he's very accountable to the media, and he's blunt. And Merrill, I think he would say the same thing about being 0 for 10 in the Padres' final 3 postseason games, striking out 3 times. He demands more from himself. So while it was a great overall season, it was not a great end to the season. And we know that he was sitting there in the dugout and was not happy that the Padres season was over. The next day, I know he was telling the media after that loss that he was going to go sit in the clubhouse and probably sit at his locker. He wanted to be at the ballpark. He didn't want it to end. So he's a baseball junkie like that. And we know he's going to be motivated to go be better next year in ways that he can be better. Try to find a way to be better defensively, which I thought he got better at as the season progressed. I'm good with Jackson Merrill defensively, but him and David Macias, they probably will find a way what things are Jackson's weaknesses that we don't totally know about. And then he's probably going to try to go get stronger so he can hit 30 homers, not 24 or whatever it was this year. Just find ways to be better and be in a spot where he doesn't go 0 for 10 in the last 3 games of the Padres season. And then the Padres, they lost 2 of those 3 games, right? And the season was over. And I know he will take part of the blame for that because that's who he is, but that's part of what makes him great for this Padres club to have as one of the young stars one of the young stars in the league, if we're being honest. So he should be the Rookie of the Year. If he doesn't win the BBWAA Rookie of the Year, then I'm going to say the real Rookie of the Year is Jackson Merrill, not Paul Skeens, because Merrill won the player's choice. The guys that are on the field with him, and they go through the grind of the season. If I was a player again, I would want that award. I'd want both, but I'd like that award if I had to choose one. I know the Rookie of the Year that gets remembered more. We don't bring up who won the Player's Choice Award, but I care more about my the people that are with me every day doing the job than the people that are covering me and what they think. But that would just be me. All right. Moving on to Fernando. This year, obviously, he dealt with injuries, or that what really the big injury. 3.2 F4, only 102 games, 276 average, 340 on base, 135 weighted runs created plus, slugging of almost 500, 64 runs, 49 ribbies, and 21 home runs. A lot of red on that baseball savant. Fernando, he continued to show that he is still one of the best players in this league when he is healthy. He loves those big moments, as we saw in the postseason. I mean, a big moment in the regular season, down 8-0. He hits that. It was the go-ahead homer, right? Against the Cubs for the Padres to win 9-8 at Petco. Remember, that was early in the season. A go-ahead 2-run bomb. Padres were down a run, right? And then he hit that bomb to go up one. That was pretty cool. He had that home run robbery in Seattle. Game 1 of the wild card series, Tatis had that first home run of the postseason. He went deep 3 more times in this postseason, and it was in the division series. That home run in game 3 in the second inning, Petco was shaking when he went yard off Walker Buehler. Again, that's one of those moments that you want to have on the Petco Park Jumbotron. You know, the pregame, for those that go to Petco, the pregame, like best of in Padres history that they show on the Jumbotron before the lineups and stuff. You want that to be on there. You want the Profar robbery to be on there. It just sucks that it didn't come with a series win. So those are probably not going to be on there, you know, on the Jumbotron before games next year. But yeah, he showed up at the beginning of that series. And then, you know, it's hard. It's hard and it's not because they lost the series. So that's partly why it's not. But it's hard at the same time because he's one of the best postseason performers with the amount of at bats that he has. He, at one point, I don't know if he still does, but higher OPS in a certain amount of at bats than like Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and guys, and I think DiMaggio. Like, it's crazy. So that's why it's partly hard to criticize because like he did a really good job still. But if we're being fair, and we do need to point out some negatives, Game 5 NLDS, really the big only situation that the Padres maybe could have capitalized. He did ground in that double play. I think it was first and second, 1 out, and he grounded into that double play to end the inning, and that was that. I forget if it was first pitch. I think it was first pitch on that final out to end the Padres season. And sometimes I did see that from Fernando where it was like, all right, maybe he's being kind of like Aaron Judge. Maybe he's trying to make something happen here instead of letting it come to him. And I think I could point to that to probably every big leaguer in the league at some point in the season because baseball's hard and you want to make things happen. So, you know, Fernando is not someone that I look at first about, you know, the Padres getting knocked out in the postseason. I mean, he's a big reason why they made it to where they did even. And he came back, obviously, missing a bunch of time with the what's it called? Right femoral stress reaction. He was dealing with that since like the beginning of the season. I think he felt it in San Francisco early on. I want to say that was in April, their first visit there. And he battled through that for what, a couple months, first few months. And then it was like, yeah, I can't play on this. It's severe. I'm limping. And then obviously they took him out. And that's what we're waiting on is that full season from Fernando. I know that 2023 technically, like he played all the games, I think, or pretty close to all the games that he could have played in, but he had the suspension, so it's not a full season. And when it's a suspension, yeah, I'm not counting that as a full season, you know. Um, Left hamstring strain in 2019, lower back stress reaction, same year, later that year, shut him down. Left shoulder in 2021, left wrist fracture, 2022, obviously. The subluxations, you know, we can bring those up as well, even though those were kind of freak things. Um, the stress reaction, obviously. So just, I want to see, it's like Bogarts too, but I know Tatis would produce better, bigger numbers than Bogarts, but just want him to be healthy. I want to see a full healthy season from Fernando because that could end up in an MVP. Unless, there's bias like Shohei Ohtani lovers, but because let's face it, Ohtani's not going to go 50-50 or whatever it was this year. He's not doing that next year. And I know he could pitch, and that could be like, well, of course he's the MVP because Tatis doesn't do that. But a full season for Fernando, like that's going to be top 3 MVP at least. I mean, look at 2021 where he led the National League in home runs. I don't know if people forget about that, or maybe you do remember that. But I mean, he was dealing with subluxations and he still did that. I think I remember him saying, I forget, maybe it was last year or this year, about how he hit 40 homers with one arm. Like he said that to the media. And I was like, yeah, kind of right. So this guy is a freak. He's super talented. That was last year, right? Where he stole home. He can still do those things. I know that was a different Fernando, but this coming year, he's going to be healthy. He'll have another full off season, I hope. And yeah, I'm hoping, excuse me. I would help him if I could. I'm hoping that he can be healthy, get a full season out of him, and then come up big, in the latter parts of a big series against the Dodgers in the division series. Because we were all waiting for Fernando, right? We were waiting for him to be in a full postseason, fans, packed crowds, and he showed up in that wild card series, the division series with those homers against the Dodgers. I would love to see him on like the World Series stage, as we all would, to see what he would. He's an electric factory. This guy's so fun to watch, you know. So that's what I've got on Fernando. For me, the real negative is just the injury, the big injury this year. All right. Let's get to our last couple of guys, David Peralta and Brandon Lockridge. David Peralta, someone that he was one of those guys that helped the Padres get to the postseason. And he homered in the division series. He had that hit down the line. Then the division series? I think it was. The hit down the right field line that brought in, I think, a couple of runs. 91 games, 267 average, 335 on base, 415 slug, above average WRC plus, 28 ribbies. I mean, this guy filled in just about as good as we could have hoped, maybe better than we could have hoped when Fernando was out for months. So that was big. Seemed like a really good clubhouse guy. It was another one of those AJ Preller moves that worked out where, yep, minor league deal. Well, we still believe in you. You're still David Peralta. I mean, you've got a lot of hits in that bat in your big league career. You can do it. Let's put you in the right spot. Let's give you the opportunity. Let's believe in you. Let's get your confidence up, and let's see what happens. And so I loved seeing David Peralta with the Padres this year. When they initially signed him, I was like, yeah, sort of like the Solano thing. Bet, all right, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but it's a minor league deal, and let's see how it goes. I'd rather have this guy on the roster than someone that doesn't have all that big league experience. I didn't believe like, oh, David Peralta has nothing left. Let's see. Sometimes all it takes is the change of scenery, belief, confidence in that person, right? That maybe another organization didn't show. The sense of like belonging somewhere. Sometimes that's what it takes. And yeah, David Peralta, Donovan Solano, those were a couple of examples. I think Jeremiah Estrada was another one of those this year. But while Tatis was out, June 22nd through September 1st, Peralta hit 289, had an 810 OPS, 7 homers, drove in 21 runs there. It's another say it 5 times fast thing there. Homered in game 2 of the NLDS. Huge go-ahead 2 RBI double in game 3. Helped the Padres take that 2-1 series lead before they obviously, sadly, didn't win another game in that series. But yeah, he was another one of those guys that it was like, all right, I got that chip on my shoulder and this team wants to win. And I am like motivated to help this team win. I'm motivated for myself personally, but to help the team as well. It seemed like he really loved the San Diego crowd. So that was awesome. Negatives, he went over in game 5 of the NLDS, but that's me like searching for something to be negative with David Peralta about, because again, this isn't Fernando we're talking about. This isn't Manny we're talking about. It's a guy that was a minor league deal that came in, filled in for Fernando for months, really did his job well, filling in for Fernando. That, it was a guy the Cubs gave up on, and he ended up coming through with a homer and a big hit in game 3. So I'm not going to sit here and rail on David Peralta. I'm just not. There's other guys that could have been better that, are getting paid 20 times the amount of what David Peralta was. All right, last one, and real quick, because there's not a ton to talk about with this guy, but Brandon Lockridge came over. I think it was in the Enyel De Los Santos deal, and there wasn't really a big enough sample size for me to really talk about these regular season numbers, so I'm not going to. But it was kind of like Tyler Wade. You shouldn't have expected him to have these like great offensive numbers. But what I thought was a really cool moment with Brandon Lockridge was the homer that he hit in that last series of the season against the D-backs, the regular season, in the 9th inning where he goes yard, his first big league homer. And it's like the whole dugout was acting as if it was a postseason homer. Like, that's how cool that moment was. That was awesome. That's one of those, it's kind of like in basketball where this is how I would compare it. Is like, in college where there's these guys that are on the bench the whole year. Maybe they're freshmen or they're just seniors that they're not good enough to be in the starting lineup. They're not good enough to be in the rotation. They're on the bench. But they get to go in the game late. The last home regular season game or senior night, they get to go in late and they make a 3 off the bench. And the whole bench is going nuts and the arena is going nuts. That's what I compare it to with Brandon Lockridge. So that was pretty cool. The first pitch, remember, in the big leagues for him, stole second base against the Giants. Immediately, he was like, Mike Schilt, you're putting me on this postseason roster. Look at that speed that I can give you. And he made it. He deserved it with just that little thing that he can give to help the Padres win. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to show that off late in that Dodger series as much as we would have hoped, because that would have meant the Padres would have been close and there would have been maybe a runner in scoring position. You put Lockridge in to pinch run, or maybe it's tied and he's the go-ahead run. You can put him in to go play defense or something. But yeah, that sucked. But there were some still cool moments. I don't have negatives for Brandon Lockridge. Sorry, I wasn't watching all of his minor league games or gonna heavily criticize him offensively. I think we know who Brandon Lockridge is. We know what he can give to the Padres. So yeah, that's what I've got there. All right. So that's going to wrap up the season reviews. I don't think I missed anyone, at least big. I went through outfielders, went through infielders, went through rotation, went through the bullpen. Yeah, I guess I could go through like the coaching staff and what I thought of really Mike Schilt, because we don't see the work that other guys do behind the scenes. There with Mike Schilt, and I can cover that here for a couple of minutes. There were some moves that I disagreed with, but overall, I thought he did a heck of a job with this group. Coming off of last year and setting the tone in before spring training, to be quite honest. He flew all over the world to go meet with players and to establish like what he was about, learn more about those players. And it felt like he really had a good connection with those guys. He wasn't just the manager of the team. And it seemed like he actually wanted to be here, which was refreshing. Wanted to win for Peter Seidler, for the Padres fans, for San Diego. And I know like it's a big league job, it's a second chance, so of course he's going to want to, but I think what also helped was him being in the organization a couple of years before getting this manager job, because then he got to learn about minor leaguers. He got to go watch Jackson Merrill before he saw him in spring training. other minor leaguers. He got to be around the connection with AJ Preller. That was something that was great this year, right? There was nothing that I heard about, oh, they're not getting along or anything like that. There was nothing. That was refreshing to have a connection between the manager and the GM. There was no athletic piece from my memory that came out or anything about, oh, the Padres front office manager relationship. That was great. So hopefully that continues. Because there wasn't anything really that was written in 2022 because they were winning. But 2023 comes and then, everything happens. So hopefully that doesn't happen for 2025. Even years, dating back to 2020, technically, because they made the postseason, have treated the Padres pretty well. They made the playoffs in every even year since, last 3 even years. So hopefully the odd year becomes a postseason appearance and not a down year. I don't like that trend to continue. The only way I would be okay with that trend is if it was like the Giants and it was World Series titles. We want the consistency, not the every other year thing. But yeah, Mike Shell, just overall, I thought he did a really good job this year. I know there's some that are going to look back at the postseason stuff and they're not going to like him for that. But there's every manager that makes postseason mistakes. So it's not like there's managers out there that never made a mistake in the postseason. Unless there's someone that you can think of, there's probably a mistake that they made that you're not thinking of. It just happens. And if managers knew what the right move was, they would make it every time. If it doesn't work, it ends up being a bad move and fire that guy. If it does work, oh, he's just doing his job. Or you call him a genius, a masterclass. And Schilt had some of those in this postseason. He did. Dave Roberts, unfortunately, I'll give props to him. He did have some good managerial games in that series. But the results worked well. The pitchers pitched well. If they didn't, he would have looked like an idiot, right? He did make himself look like an idiot, not in the game, but, with some of his comments. But that's obviously something that we talked about already, and I don't need to rehash. But overall, I think this organization, it's in a good spot. I think the coaching staff is in a good spot. Obviously, hey, it's October 30th, and we haven't heard anything about Ruben Niebla, so let's get going on that, San Diego. I know they are, but we're just not hearing anything about it so far. Will Venable, congratulations to him. Going to be the next manager of the White Sox. May not be the best job, his first managerial gig, but it could be a Mark Kotsay thing where, the A's isn't the best spot, but look at Kotsay. I think that he has earned respect around baseball for what he's doing there. And Venable maybe could do the same thing in what seems like a tough spot right now with the Chicago White Sox. So congrats to the former Padre. Obviously, was with Bochy with Texas for a few years. So good for him. I think he was with the Cubs. Might have been with the Red Sox for a year. But yeah, I still remember that catch that he made in San Francisco in center field on the warning track. My goodness, what a catch that was. They were still wearing the blue uniforms. Remember that? Maybe some of you that were Padres fans way back then. It wasn't 20 years ago, but you get my point. Yeah, all right, that's it. Talking Friars episode 656. Thank you all for the time. Great partners of the show I have, by the way. Thank you to them. Gaglione Bros, famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries. Main location is on Friars Road. Check them out. Link in the descriptions. All the links for these partners are in the description. Breaking Tea, they've got Padres and Aztecs shirts and sweatshirts. Underdog, you can claim a special pick and get a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. Code Talking Friars, same code for SeatGeek, $20 off your first order when you sign up with your email. That's going to do it. We'll see what the next topics are going to be because season reviews are done. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the season reviews. Gave you something to listen to at work maybe or on the way home. Didn't want to hear any more of, World Series talk. So there you go. Have a good one. Talk to y'all later. Appreciate you.